Hey guys, how are you doing today? Today we're going to be moving on from the motives of imperialism and the white man's border. Now we're going to be more moving into the European imperialism in Africa. Specifically, the Scramble for Africa, which was a process of invasion, occupation, colonization, and the annexation of African territory by European powers during the age of new imperialism, which was between the years of 1881 and World War One, which in 1914. On simpler terms, European powers trying to lay claim to territorials in Africa before other countries could. The scramble for Africa would not be possible if it wasn't for industrialization, which you guys have already learned about. We've learned about the major advancements in transportation and communication, especially in the forms of steam navigation, railroads, and telegraphs. In addition to medical advancement for tropical diseases like malaria. The political power in the colonies is transitioning from informal rule to direct rule. As a result, heightened tensions were starting to happen between European states at the end of the 19th century. And the purpose of the Berlin Conference in 1884 would help alleviate these concerns. We'll discuss the finer details about the Berlin Conference later in this lecture, but now we're going to talk about European involvement in Africa before the Berlin Conference. So the first people to establish permanent settlements, trade posts, and ports along the African coast were the Portuguese. That is why, before the age of new imperialism and the scramble for Africa, Europeans only controlled about 10% of the African land, which is mostly on coastal lands. As the Portuguese was the 15th century, it wasn't until the late 18th century, or a little bit, during the 18th century, that Europeans started to explore the African interior more. Northern Africa was the first area to be explored and mapped, then later South and Central Africa. Some of the first trips into the African interior was to chart the Nile River from its source, but also to trace the courses of the Niger, Congo, and the Zambezi rivers. This is when the Europeans started to notice the vast amount of resources available, such as diamonds, gold, rubber, copper. The British ended up controlling some of the most valuable lands in Africa. One of these lands was the Suez Canal in Egypt. The Suez Canal is a water passageway that boats could travel from the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea, and from the Red Sea, boats would flow out into the Indian Ocean. This way, boats would avoid traveling around the African continent. This would save these boats months of time. The canal was built by the Egyptian ruler trying to modernize the Egyptian country, but he was facing financial difficulties by borrowing large sums of money from British and French banks at high interest rates to help build the canal and help modernize the country. So the ruler of Egypt was forced to sell his shares, and the British government bought his shares in the canal. Once the Egyptian ruler paid off his debts, the British and the French seized financial control of the country, forcing the ruler to abdicate his throne and install his oldest son in his place. British also controlled lands in South Africa at the Cape Colony, which is modern day Cape Town. Because before Egypt, South Africa was used as a fueling station from boats and to refill supplies, because boats were traveling from Europe had to travel through South Africa to get to Asia and India before the Suez Canal was built. The exploitation of Central Africa by David Livingstone and Henry Morton Stanley did not excite many people, but they excited the King of Belgium. The King of Belgium, King Leopold, organized the International African Association to help colonize and modernize Central Africa. The king sent the American Stanley secretly to the Congo region to explore the area and make secret treaties with several African chiefs along the river. While Stanley was exploring the Congo, other Europeans started to notice these actions. So France and Portugal started to notice. and they sent their own representatives to parts of Africa and the Congo. As these incidents and actions, the occupation of Egypt and the exploration of the Congo were the first major moves that started the Scramble for Africa. Due to the Scramble for Africa, in 1884, as a result of the heightened tension between these European countries, the Berlin Conference was formed to eliminate the threat of a European war over Africa. At the request of Portugal, the Chancellor of Germany, Otto von Bismarck, called for 13 European countries, and the 13 European countries are the following: Austria-Hungary, Belgium, Denmark, France, Germany, Great Britain, Italy, the Netherlands, the Portuguese, the Russians, the Spanish, Scandinavia, which was a unified Sweden and Norway, and the Ottoman Empire of modern-day Turkey, plus the United States. He brought all these powers together to discuss all questions relating to the control of Africa and of the Congo River Basin, and to bring upon international guidelines for the authorization of African lands. The reasoning why Portuguese requested this meeting was the Portuguese believed they had a claim to the Congo River estuary. To clarify, an estuary is where a mouth of a river enters a larger body of water. So in this case, it's where the Congo River enters out into the Atlantic Ocean. The Berlin Conference lasted several months. The outcome of the Berlin Conference declared the Congo and the Niger River basins to be neutral, which guaranteed freedom of trade and shipping for all states in the basin. So due to the fact that they declared the Congo River neutral, this rejected the Portuguese claim to the Congo River estuary. Also forbid slave trading. They established a framework for negotiating future European claims in Africa. The country must notify the other European nations of its claim and to be able to show they can control the land. And also, it established the founding of the independent Congo Free State, which was controlled by King Leopold's International Africa Association, which in fact it was a front company. King Leopold owned all the shares of the association. So in retrospect, the Congo Free State was King Leopold's own personal kingdom. It was his own personal property. Now these next few slides are going to talk about each individual country and some information about the African lands. Belgium and the Congo is not going to be discussed because you guys will be learning more about that subject more in depth in a couple of days. So first, Britain had managed to get the most valuable land in Africa. South Africa and Rhodesia had diamonds, gold, and Rhodesia, as you guys noticed from your assignment yesterday, that land was named after Cecil Rhodes. And Egypt had the most valuable real estate of them all, the Suez Canal, which provided the Egyptian Navy and shipping containers a quicker, safer route to India, which was the jewel in the crown of the British Empire. Now the next slide is talking about French claims. The French mostly controlled lands in northwest Africa, and they built up the largest empire. As I mean the largest empire in Africa, I mean the largest empire that's all encompassed into one. Because some countries have bits and pieces over there, but France was all one chunk. This caused many problems in some of the colonies. A problem in Morocco was Germany wanted to challenge the French control of the island. Not the island, the French control of Morocco. And the problem of Tunisia was the way the French obtained the land over the Italians. The French was able to lay claim to Tunisia because of the Ottoman Empire. And what do you mean by the Ottoman Empire? I mean by this. The Ottoman Empire, which was modern-day Turkey, they were in a war with Russia. And the Ottoman was defeated. During the negotiations of the surrender and the European countries laying claims to Ottoman lands, The French can gain control of Tunisia from the Ottomans in exchange of returning Cyprus to the Ottomans. These discussions surrounding France's role of obtaining Tunisia was kept secret from the Kingdom of Italy, which is deeply opposed to the French intervention in Tunisia, because they believed it was their claim. Okay, well now, the next one is Germany. They entered this Scramble for Africa very late. The only reason for entering the Scramble for Africa was because of Italy. At this time in history, the governments of Italy, Germany, and Austria-Hungary had an alliance, which they called the Triple Alliance. The late arrival by the Germans is the reason that the German African lands did not have much value or resources. But despite this, the Kaiser, or King Wilhelm II, was determined that Germany should have a major empire. You will learn more about the Kaiser's ambitions and desires of creating a major German empire when we'll be discussing World War I later this year. Now we're talking about why Germany entered the Scramble for Africa. It was because of the Italians. Italy did have some colonies in Africa, but they faced the most problems of all the European countries. Italy tried to conquer Tunisia, which is directly south from Italy, but as I just told you, the French beat them to it. And the biggest problem of them all is Italy was the only European country to be defeated by the natives. Specifically, the Abyssinia, which is from modern-day Ethiopia. The Italians helped modernize the Ethiopians, and the Ethiopian king modernized the military by obtaining weapons from the Italians. By doing that, when the natives were able to defeat the Italians with the weapons, the Italians had previously escaped to them. And this was the Battle of Adwa, which secured Ethiopia's independence for at least one generation. By 1914, only Ethiopia and Liberia were the only countries in Africa independent from European leadership. Tomorrow you guys are going to have a worksheet to answer questions about the Scramble Africa and to be looking at some maps.